Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Mommie Dearest. This is a donation reward for Venom 0027, and it is a movie that I, to my knowledge, have never even heard of prior to this being suggested. The title doesn't sound familiar. It's spelled in a way you don't normally spell the word mommy as well. Like, you usually spell mommy M-O-M-M-Y, but this is with an I-E at the end. And it's like, maybe it's a cultural thing? I don't know if this is a cultural move. I don't know if this is like if this is foreign in any way. I don't know if that's like I don't know if it's a spelling thing based on like location or whatnot. Because I've always seen the word mommy spelled with a Y. So I don't know. It might be locational too, like even within the U.S. But like I lived in the South, so I don't think it's a Southern thing. Granted, I was only there for 2 years, but I don't think I ever saw mommy spelled out with an I-E there. I don't know. But like I said, I have no fucking clue what this film is about at all. Because again, to my knowledge, I've never even heard of it. The title, I guess it tells you there's going to be a mother or mother figure in it. That's about it. I can't really even glean anything off of that. I don't know who's in this. I don't know when it came out. I don't know who it's directed by. I don't know the genre of the film. For all I know, this could be a fucking horror movie. I don't know. And there's one other movie currently on my list for donation rewards. And that one was also from Venom. And basically I chose this one because, one, it's longer and I want to get the longer one kind of out of the way. And two, I don't know anything about this, so I kind of wanted to go with this first. The other one I at least know a tiny bit about. Even if still very little. But yeah, so I don't really have much of any thoughts going into this. I don't know what to expect at all from any part of this. It's 3 hours long, which for me isn't that big of a deal. I can easily handle 3 hours. I just saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness today, and I wish that was 3 hours long. And if you watch the review or whatnot, if I put that up first or if I put it up after this, I don't know. But if you watch that, it's like I'm not complaining about the movie not being long enough. Exactly. I just kind of wish it were longer because I would have liked to see just more of it. It's not really. Yeah, just go watch that review if you've seen the movie. I talk brief spoiler-free stuff at the beginning, but most of the video is spoilery. So, just warning on that. I know, not really totally on topic, but yeah, the gist is that the length of this movie doesn't scare me. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I guess, interested to see what this is. I mean, Venom suggested it for me, so obviously he thinks I'm going to either enjoy it or at least find it interesting. So there's that. Or at least it's something that he just wants to see my reaction to. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. Again, don't know who's in it, don't know anything about anything with this film. So we're going in blind. So So yeah, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. First of all, I want to apologize for the confusion about the runtime. The video I have, I guess, included some special features like making of and story behind the film or something. I didn't watch through them or anything between. But that's why it was 3 hours when the movie itself was only 2. I was confused about that. I don't know why the file contained all that extra stuff. I guess if someone would want to watch that stuff, but I mean, I wasn't really interested. And that kind of leads into my second point. I looked up stuff about this movie in between recording the reaction and these afterthoughts. Apparently this is based off of a memoir, a book by Christina Crawford that was published after her mother's death and then was made into this movie. And although I guess Christina didn't like this film because it takes a few liberties, there's a few things that were added into it that I guess weren't in the memoir and stuff. The general idea and consensus and the general feeling of the film is still there. It like gets the point across still. From what I've read about like the stuff that occurred in the book and everything, most of it tracks. Most of it seems to be the same. It's just the movie, I guess, exaggerated a few things. And apparently, when Christina published the book and all, there was a lot of controversy surrounding it. Some, I guess, friends of Joan Crawford was like saying it was fiction and saying things were embellished and that Joan Crawford wasn't really like that. But like apparently Christopher Crawford said that like he wondered if he doubted his mother ever actually loved them. And there's like there just seemed to be a lot of controversy and a lot of people defending Joan Crawford, and these are probably people who only saw Joan from an outside perspective, from the perspective of someone looking in. The problem is abusers oftentimes put on a facade around others. They will oftentimes demonize their victims and make themselves look better around their friends, their associates, their coworkers, their family. But when in private, abusers like this, especially in regards to parents, that's when they show their true colors. And so these people defending her, it's like saying, oh, she wasn't actually like that. It's like, that's because she didn't let you see that side of her. Honestly, Christina's perspective here is much more credible than yours will ever be. Christina's viewpoint is honestly, in the case of the events of this film and the memoir it's based on, are the only point that really matters here. The victim's point of view is the point of view that matters. It doesn't matter what outside friends and outside members of family or co-workers or associates, people outside of the direct home situations and all, it doesn't matter what they think. Their views, their opinions are absolutely pointless, absolutely like just a complete waste of time. They don't matter. And so it's like I'm sorry, I believe the victim. And again, while the movie may have exaggerated a few things or added a few specific scenes in, it's like it's a movie adaptation of a book. Even if it is a docudrama, even if it is a based on a memoir, like of course it's still going to do that. That's how movies are. If a movie adapts anything, it's going to add some stuff for the sake of entertainment, for drama, for just to make the movie either get the point across more or just to embellish it, to add a little flair to it in a way. That's just how Hollywood is. That's how the movie industry has always been and always will be. And you could argue on whether or not you think that's a good or a bad thing, but that's honestly at this point not really here or there, because it's not going to change. There might be one or two movies every so often that are more accurate in their depictions to the source material, but that's honestly not something you're always going to come across, and honestly pretty rarely going to come across. So now Venom, I genuinely am not sure why you suggested this for me. I'm not going to necessarily say this film was a bad movie. I saw that it apparently got like a lot of Razzies for the acting and stuff, and that apparently got a lot of bad reviews and holds a negative rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that that necessarily means anything. But that it got a lot of like flack for a lot of the acting and overacting and shit. I wouldn't say it's bad though. Like there was definitely overacting, there was issues and all. But it wasn't great either. But I mean, I don't know what made you think of this movie for me specifically. I genuinely don't like. And here's the thing: if you want to suggest a movie like this, that's fine. If you just want to see how I'll react to it or whatnot, that's fine. Like, I have no problem with that. I have no issue if you just want to suggest a movie just to see how I'll react. Because maybe you don't know how I'll react to it, because honestly, with me, you never know. But I'm just wondering if you did think I would like this, or if you just wanted to if you did just do this because you wanted to see, like, what my thoughts would be on it. I'm just genuinely curious. I'm not, like, speaking out against you or anything. Don't worry about that, Venom. I'm asking this, though, because I think it was very obvious how upset this movie made me while I was watching it. And again, as I stated in the reaction, it is not against Faye Dunaway. My issues with this film have nothing to do with the actress, has nothing to do with anyone who worked on the movie, or Christina, who wrote the memoir. It is specifically with the character and the things she was doing within the story of the film. As I made it, I hope, clear enough in the reaction, child abuse, especially physical child abuse, but any kind of child abuse, bothers me on a monumental level. It genuinely puts me into panic mode. Not only because of having experienced it myself, but it's also partially because, as someone who tends to be very empathetic and someone who tends to be very very protective and caring towards children, seeing a child being abused, again, it puts me into panic mode. Like I legitimately cannot handle it. And obviously certain depictions upset me more than others in regards to that. There are some movies or shows or games where I see this kind of stuff and I can handle it. But then there's others that I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it's depicted or the way the actors and actresses, writers, and everything like handle the situation, the sounds, the score, the acting. I don't know. There's certain situations where it just affects me more than others, and this is one of those that really like almost shut me down. Like, you noticed I had to pause it for a moment, because if I didn't, I probably would have had a full breakdown. I'm not even kidding. Like, I was on the verge of just completely breaking down, and if that had happened, I would have basically stopped the movie and not continued. Not just right now, but ever. I had to stop it. I had to take a moment to breathe, to just try and gather myself, just to be able to continue. And I'm not, by the way, if I'm not saying you can't suggest movies that feature heavy subject matter like this. That's fine if you do. I'm just telling you, like, if you do, that I might need to handle it in this way as well going forward with any others. I'm not, again, I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming you for choosing this, Venom. I'm not, like, reprimanding you or anything. I'm just explaining why I was very clearly so heavily affected by this. Why it garnered such a visceral reaction out of me. And I want to, again, make clear that feel free to suggest movies if you really want to see me react to them that are visceral or horrifying or just absolutely disgusting, like, in terms of its depiction of this kind of stuff. Just know that if it gets too bad for me, I might have to pause it and take some breaths. And the reason I specifically say to not stop suggesting stuff like this is because I think that not only for me, but also for those of you viewing this is a topic we can't just censor, for lack of a better word. It's not a topic we can just run away from. Child abuse, both emotional and physical, as seen in this film, is a very real thing. Many people go through it. Again, myself included. And it's not something you just recover from that easily. And yes, a lot of times you can get into a Stockholm syndrome-like state with an abuser, especially when it's your parent, because they're your parent, and you think that, like, oh, if they're abusing you, if they're treating you like this, you must have done something wrong. Do you know how many times I thought that growing up? And looking back on it, I realized that I was not the one in the wrong most of those times. Sometimes I did do some stupid shit. Though, granted, abuse is never the answer to that. Physical punishment against children is always abuse. It is never the answer. But I'm just saying, admittedly, there were some times where I did really stupid shit. Like, there were a couple times I tried to run away from home, and, like, really tried to run away from home. Like, I went far. But again, physical abuse is never a correct punishment for that, for anything. But yeah, the point is like, yes, this stuff bothers me on a very strong level, especially when it's portrayed as viscerally as this film portrays it. But again, this needs to be seen. Not this movie necessarily specifically, but this kind of topic. It needs to be known. And it needs to be known that in real life it can get this bad or even worse. Like, there are parents who go a lot further than what we saw in this movie. There are parents who do and have killed their children just for speaking out against them. And it's not something to make light of. I read when I was looking things up that apparently there are some people, there's like this cult following of people who look back on this film as an unintentional comedy because of the bad acting. And it's like, those people make me want to throw up. Even if you think the acting is laughably bad, the topics at hand in this movie are not something you can just hand wave away as something to laugh at. Even if you think the pacing in this film is bad, which I definitely do. I think the pacing in this film was honestly kind of shit. Honestly. There were way too many cuts. It just jumped ahead at random points, and it just, for a lot of the scenes, did not stick on them for long. It didn't stick on a lot of points in the characters' lives for long. It just did not seem to know how it wanted to actually portray the story well enough. But even so, you can't just hand wave this off as like this comedic, laughably bad movie. The topic is still serious, and it's still something that needs to be taken seriously. Especially with how viscerally and horrifyingly it was portrayed in this. So, again, I want to make it clear that I don't want you, Venom, or anyone, to not just suggest movies like this just because you're afraid that I'll have a visceral reaction to them. The fact that I have a visceral reaction to this is a good thing, honestly. If you can watch this movie and not be that disturbed by what you saw, then there's probably something wrong. And yes, I know it's a movie. I know it's acting and everything. I understand that. But one, this is based on a true story. This is based on real life events. And for two, movies can still make you feel immersed and they can still elicit emotions. If you're watching a movie and you have no emotional attachment to it at all, then it's just, honestly, not just an extremely bad movie, but a pointless one. Even bad movies can make you feel emotions. Watch The Room with Tommy Wiseau. You're gonna feel emotions. They might be confusing emotions, but they will be emotions. If you can watch a movie like this, or any movie, without connecting to characters or understanding points of view, or just without things affecting you, then there's something wrong. Either with the movie or honestly with you. And I mean that genuinely in a good, in a caring way. because every movie, every piece of media should elicit a reaction out of its consumer. That's how media should work. This movie really affected me because of my empathetic nature, because of my personal connection with the subject of child abuse. And because I just genuinely find this kind of thing to be grotesque and horrifying. And to see it so viscerally portrayed, it's like it wasn't holding a lot back. Like the moment I broke down, really started to cry when young Christina had said to her brother something along the lines of if you do that, she'll kill me, when he offers to help and everything, to help her clean up. When I broke down, I was crying about the fact that she even considers that an option. That's the emotion you should have in that kind of situation. The fact that a kid could even consider the idea that their parents would kill them for something like that is absolutely abhorrent. And it's just it that kind of shit gets to me. And I was talking about in the reaction as well. I mentioned once or twice, I don't remember at this point. I said something along the lines of and I was having a good day after seeing Doctor Strange, and implying that I'm not in a good mood anymore. That I'm not I'm miserable, and I was. I want to make that clear. I was extremely miserable watching this movie. I did not enjoy watching this film. But again, that's kind of the point. You're not really supposed to. You're not supposed to be having a fun time watching this. If you are, you're there again, there's probably something wrong. If you think this is fun, there's probably something wrong. Because this is very much not fun. This is horrifying. And it was sapping a lot of my energy. And I very much lashed out at the again, the character, quote unquote, of Joan Crawford in this. The characterized version of her. You noticed I called her a certain word once or twice in there. Maybe even 3 or 4 times, I don't know. I wasn't really counting. But a couple times I called her the C word, and it's and mind you, I don't take that back. I only use that word for people who I absolutely feel deserve it. For people who I absolutely feel are that disgusting and abhorrent. And I would put a child abuser in that level. And with the stuff we saw her do, not just the physical and emotional abuse, but literally trying to kill her. Her literally trying to kill her daughter like that. It's at that point, it's I don't understand how Christina still sided with her at all after that point. Again, I have to kind of assume there was some level of Stockholm Syndrome, because I don't understand how you could side with an abuser like that to that degree after they literally try to kill you. From what I read on the articles and stuff, it says she had thought she had made amends with her mother or something, or whatever it was, however it was worded, until she found out that she and her brother were disinherited from her mother's will. And that's when she chose to write the memoir and all, which apparently in actuality, I guess she was already writing the memoir before her mother died or something. Um, but either way, the point is, like, she found out I guess she was going to be disinherited, but she had thought, like, prior to that, anyways, that she was going to be, um, that she was, she thought that she and her mother had made up. And so, like, that came as a surprise to her when that happened, and that's how it's portrayed in the movie, for sure. And it's like, that's the breaking point for you? Being disinherited in the will? You know, not your mother trying to choke you to death. It's the will thing. That's the thing that breaks you. But yeah, as you may have noticed also in these afterthoughts, I haven't actually talked much about the movie itself, about the events of which, outside of just my thoughts on the general premise and ideas and whatnot, and maybe a couple specific moments. But I don't think there's much else to say. I think what I've been saying here is what I needed to say following this film. I don't think I need to give like a play-by-play of everything that happened and my thoughts on every little thing. I think I got it across as well as I needed to in the reaction, and then with my general thoughts on how this movie was through its concept and ideas. I think that's more important to talk about in this kind of regard anyway. And again, like I said, I don't consider this movie great, but I don't consider it as bad as some other people apparently do. Again, yes, a lot of the acting was overacted. Yes, the pacing was terrible. But I've seen much worse. I've seen movies that are much worse than this. Have you ever seen that Jack and Jill movie with, I think it's Adam Sandler? Yeah, I think it's Adam Sandler. That movie is so bad, it's literally walk out of the theater, like, in the middle, not even in the middle of it bad. Yes, speaking from experience. You ever seen Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly? That's that bad. Those kinds of movies are much worse than this. Movies like that are actually insulting to the audience to watch. That are actually, like, just an absolute waste of time. Movies like this that are just, that have some aspects of them that are poorly handled, that there's a lot of movies like that. That's not even as uncommon as a lot of people want to think. You could go out and find a lot of big budget films that come out nowadays with just as many problems. And the same kind of problems too. Overacting, bad pacing, etc., etc. So I don't really consider this film that terrible, like some people, but I don't consider it really that great. But in terms of a viewing experience, I admittedly was miserable almost the entire time. Once, like, the abuse really started happening, and that was pretty early on, all things considered, I was kind of miserable the entire time watching this. And again, though, can I really be mad at the movie, though, if that's kind of the point? If that's how you're supposed to feel about it? So it kind of did its job. I was miserable, I was breaking down, I was, like, extremely upset, to the point where I literally had to pause the movie for a little bit just to gather myself. But again, it was kind of the point. So I can't be really upset about that. So that's why I was saying, like, don't think that I'm telling you to stop requesting movies like this, Venom or anyone else. I'm just saying, like, the movie succeeded in fucking me up. So just force feeding a brick down my throat. I don't know why that's the example I came up with. I have no fucking clue. And I'll be fine, obviously. I'll watch other stuff. I'll get my mind off of it. I'll be fine going forward. By the time this is uploaded, I'll probably already be moving on. So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's like this movie, again, with its topic, it needs to be taken seriously. And for how visceral it is in its portrayal, it is something that should be seen. Not necessarily like specifically viewed, you know what I mean. I said this already, but it needs to be talked about. This kind of thing needs to be taken seriously, and you can't just sugarcoat it. Child abuse still happens. And unfortunately, as horrible sounding as it is, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to stop it completely. Probably not. And that's absolutely fucking disgusting. People out here abusing, injuring, killing their children because of their own fucked up minds is just absolutely horrific. And the way it scars people, even those who survive are often left very scarred, and unfortunately sometimes can even unfortunately go into that direction themselves, wanting to reverse the situation and desiring to have the position of power. The abused become the abusers. It's a lot more common than you might think. Luckily, there's also plenty of people who work to make it so that they would never become their parents, or their abusers in general. People like me who is so scarred by the way I was treated growing up that it's shaped a lot of who I am. And it allowed me to step away from a lot of the brainwashing that was also done to me and be able to formulate my own views and opinions and just thoughts on real life situations and all. So it's like this is a topic that needs to continue to be brought up, whether through films, other media, or just real life discussions. Because we can't continue to work on stopping this stuff if we don't talk about how bad it is. And again, we can't sugarcoat it. If we sugarcoat it, we're taking away the opportunity for it to be taken as seriously as it needs to be. We need to point out how fucked up it can be, and oftentimes enough is. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Tell me your thoughts down below. And Venom, once again, I do thank you for suggesting this. I thank you for suggesting this as a donation reward. And again, do not feel the need to not suggest stuff like this in the future. You can suggest other movies that are this painful to watch. Believe me, I welcome that kind of stuff, especially when it allows me to be able to speak on topics as important as this. So I do thank you. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.